This video explains who from Pakistan is behind the recent murder of a Sikh lady school principal and 4 Sikh soldiers in Kashmir and their motives. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, where I provide unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. On October 7, 2021, a Sikh lady school principal Supinder Kaur and another Kashmiri Brahmin teacher Deepak Chand were gunned down by terrorists and killed in Srinagar, Kashmir. An entity called the Resistance Front or TRF claimed responsibility for the murders. On October 5, 2021, TRF claimed responsibility for the deaths of 3 people: Makhanlal Bindru, a prominent Kashmiri Pandit and owner of Srinagar's most famous pharmacy, who was shot dead at his shop that evening. Minutes later, a street vendor, Virendra Paswan, a Hindu from Bihar, was gunned down in Srinagar. Almost simultaneously, another civilian, Muhammad Shafi Lone, a non-Kashmiri Muslim, was killed at Nandkhai in Bandipora. Earlier in the same week, on October 3rd, 4 protesting Sikh farmers were plowed down by an SUV driven by Ashish Mishra, the son of India's Minister of State for Home Affairs, Ajay Kumar Mishra. TRF seems to have been created to give Pakistan deniability from action under the Financial Action Task Force and is an amalgamation of existing terror groups operating in Kashmir according to the assessment of India's security establishment. The Financial Action Task Force is the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog. The intergovernmental body sets international standards that aim to prevent these illegal activities and the harm they cause to society. The Resistance Front was launched after the revocation of the special status of Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. Lashkar-e-Toiba leaders formed the core of the TRF. TRF has taken responsibility for various attacks in Kashmir in 2020, including the deaths of 5 Indian Army para-commandos. In June 2020, Army's 15th Corps Commander Lieutenant General B.S. Raju said, "There is no organization called TRF. It is a social media entity which is trying to take credit for anything and everything that is happening within the valley. It is in the electronic domain." TRF is supported by Pakistan and appears to be a rebranding effort to draw international attention to Kashmir issues, project the image that it is a Kashmiri organization. But its operatives are all drawn from existing terror organizations such as Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, and Al-Badr, all Pakistan-based. The killing of 7 civilians in Kashmir was followed by killing of 5 Indian Army soldiers the following week on October 11, 2021, 4 of them being Sikhs. The shootings were carried out by Pakistani infiltrators in a mountain pass near the line of control in Indian part of Kashmir. The following day, 5 rebels were killed by the Indian armed forces. In these incidents, in a matter of 9 days, 8 Sikh men and a woman were murdered. These killings are not coincidental. Sikhs were being deliberately targeted. In my video of October 7, 2021, titled UP and Bihar Brahmins, we radio signals at the Lakhimpur Kheri violence, I explained the reasons why Sikhs were specifically targeted for murder by Brahmins with the last name Mishra, who live mainly in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Odisha. The killings signaled a shift in the allegiance of the Brahmins from these states. People from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's home state of Gujarat and from the states of Rajasthan, Bengal, and the South Indian states of Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, and Telangana have been allied with the Germans for nearly 6 decades. The Germans, with the help of their Indian alliance partners, seek to destroy Punjabis, particularly Sikhs, because they fought against them in both world wars as part of the British Indian Army. A war is being planned for this purpose. Modi's side is doing its best to ally all Indians with them against the Sikhs. Those wishing to become their allies and cement their alliance have to meet the German hurdle qualification of murdering an American of non German descent, a Briton, or a Sikh. The Mishras killed the four Sikh farmers to cement their alliance with Modi's side. Specific targeting of Sikhs in Kashmir is designed to send Modi a similar signal by Pakistan. While on the surface, Pakistan and India seem to be fighting to gain control of the entire state of Kashmir for themselves, the reality is quite different because of interference by the Germans. Pakistan's goal is to annex the Indian administered part of Kashmir to itself, and that goal remains unchanged. For this purpose, Pakistan has made four attempts, once in 1947-48, secondly in the 1965 war, thirdly during the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971, and finally during the Kargil War in 1999. Since then, Pakistan has continued to send terrorists to India, particularly Kashmir, who have carried out terrorist acts against Indian soldiers and civilian targets in Kashmir and other parts of India. Of course, Pakistan always denies responsibility for any of these acts. But the widely known truth to the Indian authorities and other nations is that the terrorist acts in Kashmir are the handiwork of Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence or ISI agency, which sponsors and or supports most of the terror outfits operating from Pakistan and Pakistan administered Kashmir, in Indian administered Kashmir, and against other Indian targets. I had heard how vicious and diabolical ISI was, but I did not know the details about its atrocities. However, I have recently come across a document that has opened my eyes to Pakistan ISI operations. The document is the Disinfo Lab document, is titled Kashmir Incorporated, a Conflict Industry, Beneficiaries Across Generations and Continents. This is put out by the disinfolab.org. I believe the information in this document to be authentic and very reliable. This document describes how Pakistan and its ISI control the narrative regarding Kashmir through its funding and support for individuals born in India administered Kashmir but who later moved to Saudi Arabia and then shifted their base of operations to the United Kingdom and USA. The aim of the organizations to set up by these individuals is independence for Kashmir or merger of Indian administered Kashmir with Pakistan. However, since 2015 and 2016, the baton has been passed on to the next generation, the sons and daughters of the key original individuals who have become very active on Kashmir issues in the United States, UK, European Union, and other international circles. The first generation of key individuals and their children who started the psychological war or Psy war concerning Kashmir included the following: Muhammad Ayub Thakur and son Muzammil Ayub Thakur. Muhammad Ayub Thakur was born in 1948. He's a PhD in nuclear physics. While teaching at Kashmir University, he, along with Ghulam Nabi Fai, planned to internationalize the Kashmir issue, beginning with the foreign students enrolled in Kashmir colleges. After dismissal from his service in Kashmir University due to political activism, Thakur went to Saudi Arabia and from there to the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, Thakur founded the World Kashmir Freedom Movement, Justice Foundation, and Mercy Universal, which is a front used to collect donations and fund terrorist activities in Kashmir. The document states, while on the face of it, Ayub Thakur was lobbying for Kashmir cause. He allegedly also provided significant support to terror activities against India, channeling ISI funds to Kashmir through its various fronts and affiliates. Thakur was alleged to funnel funds to militant organizations in Jammu and Kashmir via his charity organization Mercy Universal. After Thakur passed away on March 10, 2004, his son Muzammil Ayub Thakur inherited the business. The son admitted that his father funded terrorism activities in Kashmir. As a United Kingdom citizen, Muzammil Ayub Thakur is active in Kashmir advocacy in the United Kingdom since 2016. He advocates for independence of Kashmir for Kashmiri audiences and for Kashmir as part of Pakistan for Pakistani audiences. He has resurrected some of the defunct organizations his father had founded and founded some others of his own. Organizations he founded in the United Kingdom include World Kashmir Freedom Movement, the Justice Foundation, Kashmir House, and the Kashmir Center. Next is Ghulam Nabi Fai. Born in 1949 in India, administered Kashmir. Ghulam Nabi Fai, after his MA in India, went to Saudi Arabia when he came to the notice of Indian authorities for his Kashmir-related activities. He was granted a scholarship by the Saudis for a PhD in mass communication at Temple University in the United States, which he did not complete. According to the Disinfo Lab document, Ghulam Nabi Fai is the fulcrum of ISI's Kashmir operations. Every single thread on the Kashmir issue, which originates with Pakistan, eventually reaches him. He conducts lobbying activities on Kashmir issues in the United States. Fai is the executive director of Kashmir American Council, or KAC, which was declared an ISI front by the United States in 2011. Fai was arrested on July 19, 2011 and charged with concealing the transfer of $3.5 million from ISI to Kashmir American Council, KAC. He was released in November 2013 after 16 months in jail. Despite his conviction, he still remains the main contact and go-to figure for ISI for its lobbying activities. Next is Ghulam Nabi Mir. He is a gastroenterologist in Akron, Ohio, United States. Born in Indian part of Kashmir, he founded the Islamic Society of North America, or ISNA. ISNA is an umbrella organization that has proven connections with terror outfits like Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. Another key organization founded by Mir is the World Kashmir Awareness Forum in 2005, which claims to focus on providing information on Kashmir and advocating for Kashmiris in the region and throughout the diaspora. It advocates on Kashmir issues with diplomats and with civic, human rights, religious, and political organizations. It also lobbies at the United Nations and interacts with the United Nations Human Rights Council and Amnesty International. According to the Disinfo Lab document, Dr. Mir's son Ayman Nabi Mir is a two-time president of Muslim Youth of North America, which is the youth wing of ISNA. Moreover, Ayman Mir also served as the chairperson of Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States between 2009 to 2014. He was appointed by then USA President Barack Obama. This shows how ISI has developed contacts in the highest places in the United States government. Then Muhammad Ahmadullah Siddiqui. He is a batchmate of Fai from his Aligarh Muslim University, or AMU, days and also studied at Temple University with him. He founded the banned terrorist organization called Students Islamic Movement of India, or SIMI. According to the Disinfo Lab document, Siddiqui presently heads an organization called Sound Vision, which is a Jamaat-e-Islami front. Sound Vision sponsors Justice for All, which is an umbrella organization under which several other fronts are operating, such as Save India, Burma Task Force, and Free Kashmir, etc. Their core agenda is to collect funds in the name of Zakat. Zakat is a religious duty of all wealthy Muslims to help the needy and other social issues and natural calamities. Use the funds to engage lobbyists in the United States and Europe who target India. It has also played a significant role in cultivating senior officials at USCIRF, or the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. Next is Dr. Yusuf Fazili and daughter Samira Fazili. Yusuf Fazili, a Kashmiri, is a medical doctor, a surgeon in the United States, and a director of Kashmiri American Council, or KAC, founded by FI. He immigrated to the United States in 1970. His daughter Samira Fazili has a law degree from Yale and BA in social studies from Harvard College. She served as senior policy advisor at the White House's National Economic Council in the Obama administration, and then as director of engagement for the community and economic development at the Fed in Atlanta. Presently, she is the deputy director of the National Economic Council in the Biden administration. She is the ex-media coordinator of Stand with Kashmir organization. Next, Muhammad Akram Dhar and son Ejaz Dhar. Dr. Muhammad Akram Dhar is a medical doctor, is associated with Ghulam Nabi Faiz Kashmiri American Council as Secretary Treasurer and with Ghulam Mir's World Kashmir Awareness Forum. Dr. Dhar's son Ejaz Dhar founded Stand with Kashmir in October 2019, which is one of the most active fronts for ISI. Other key young people of the new generation of Kashmir is associated with Stand with Kashmir, or SWK, are Hafsa Kanjwal, Samira Fazili, Aether Zia, Sahla Ashai as treasurer, and Sumaira Shah as secretary. Hafsa Kanjal is the daughter of Dr. Muhammad Yusuf Kanjwal, who obtained his medical degree in Srinagar, Kashmir. According to the Disinfo Lab document, Hafsa is a cousin of Samir Fazili and is an assistant professor of South Asian history at Lafayette College. She received a PhD from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in history and women's studies. She has written and spoken on Kashmir for a wide variety of news outlets, including the Washington Post, Al Jazeera in English, and the BBC. She is a founding member of the Critical Kashmir Studies Collective. Hafsa is also a spokesperson for SWK and has been representing the organization at various fora. Since her early 20s, Kanjwal was groomed by Pakistani embassy ecosystem and was also seen regularly with FI. Both Kanjwal and FI attended several events together. One such event was organized by George Washington University in 2006. The Disinfo Lab document makes a very interesting comment. It seems everyone has a stake in Kashmir except Kashmiris from Kashmir, and identifies some key white Americans that ISI has roped in to amplify the Kashmir issue in America, Britain, and other international circles. These are Edward Hasbrouck, an American journalist and author who has become an activist for human rights in America. His interest in Kashmir stems apparently from his mother being a Pakistani. He first visited India in 1989 and has visited several times since. He is a friend of Ghulam Nabi Fai, featuring with him at different events, and sports Fai's views on Kashmir. He has an extensive website devoted to Kashmir issues. And Karen Joda Fisher, a German origin American who came to Kashmir in 2006 and lived there till 2016. She married a well-known Kashmiri photographer, Samar Joda, but apparently separated after a few years. She served as the Director of Public Safety, Public Policy and Regulatory Affairs of a Delhi-based PR company called Perfect Relations Limited. Then she moved to Kashmir. Someone from a foreign country wishing to reside in India, I would expect her to live in a large city like Srinagar. But she chose to settle in a rural area next to the line of control at the Indo-Pak border as a tourism expert. She seems to have been supported by the local politicians. She took part in election activities which are prohibited to foreigners and was thus detained. Now back in the United States, she runs two lobbying firms, Chinar Consulting LLC and Kashmir Action Network, both registered in October 2020. Within 3 months of registration, each of the firms received a contract for $3,500 per month each to lobby against India on the Kashmir issue from Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, the current ruling political party of Prime Minister Imran Khan. Next is Danielle Alice Khan. Formerly Danielle Alice Sear graduated from high school in 2011, completed her BA in International Relations and Global Islamic Studies at Connecticut College in 2015, and then an MSc in International Relations and International Politics at the University of Glasgow in the United Kingdom in 2016. Then she worked for the US State Department with the US Ambassador to Turkey. At the invitation of a friend from Kashmir whom she met in Glasgow, she visited Kashmir and married her friend's cousin Shahrukh Khan, an IT security engineer. Both are now living in the United States. Danielle amplifies Karen Jodha's work and her newly formed Pakistan-funded organization Kashmir Action Network. Danielle Khan has recently acquired OCI card, or an Overseas Citizen of India card. The document sums up the work of these two women in these words. White female US tourists appear right at a conflict theater in quick succession, both falling in love with Indians and marrying them. They also build up views about Kashmir that is suitable to a certain country, meaning Pakistan, and both of them eventually work towards lobbying for the same country against India. None of these women have any public existence prior to their appearance in India. There is no escaping the conclusion that the actions of these two women were deliberate and planned to aid Pakistan in its propaganda on Kashmir issues against India. So, besides private US citizens, the Disinfo Lab document also identifies former CIA agents involved in lobbying on behalf of Pakistan. Number one, Robert Lauren Grenier. He was a former CIA station chief in Islamabad, Pakistan. Later, he was fired as director of CIA's Counter-Terrorist Center due to his involvement in CIA leaks. He opened Grenier Consulting LLC in April 2020 and was awarded a lobbying contract by Pakistan in July 2021. Then Robin Raphael is a former diplomat and a CIA analyst turned lobbyist. In 1991, she joined as political counselor at US Embassy in New Delhi. She is credited with the creation of All-Party Hurriyat Conference, or APHC, which is an alliance of 26 political, social, and religious organizations formed in March 1993 to present a united political front to raise awareness about and fight for an independent Kashmir. She was married to Arnold Raphael, who was US ambassador to Pakistan in 87-88 and who died in the plane crash with Zia-ul Haq. She is also a former ambassador to Tunisia. In her career, Raphael has worked tirelessly to help Pakistan receive aid of various kinds from the United States. Though 80 years old, she is still active in projecting her position on behalf of Pakistan that Kashmir is disputed territory. Though Pakistan has planted many of the Kashmiris mentioned, it has also hired professional lobbying firms to control the Kashmir narrative with the US government and the country. These include Holland at Night, BLJ Worldwide, London Government Solutions, Fenton Communications, and the already mentioned Chinar Consulting LLC, Kashmir Action Network, and Grenier Consulting LLC. Just as the US, Pakistan also carries out extensive lobbying activities and peddling of fake news on Kashmir in the European Union through two organizations, Kashmir Peace Forum and Friends of Kashmir. Similarly, lobbying activities and peddling of fake news in the United Kingdom is carried out through the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Kashmir. Now, according to the Disinfo Lab document, the UK All-Party Parliamentary Groups are informal cross-party groups formed by MPs and members of the House of Lords who share a common interest in a particular policy area, region or country. APPGs have no official status within Parliament. However, these groups still act as a lobby or pressure groups and above all are useful instruments for info-war. The UK APPG Kashmir is headed by UK MP Debbie Abraham and has 20 other members. To get a greater understanding of ISI and Pakistan establishment's nefarious activities, I urge you to read the entire document of the Disinfo Lab, which is not too large. Now, from these brief biographies of key people involved in the Kashmir issue, this is what we can learn from the activities Pakistan is engaged in worldwide related to the Kashmir issue. Many of these conclusions are mentioned in the Disinfo Lab document. 1. The Kashmir conflict has become a family business run by a set of families, started by the old guard but passed on to the next generation. Besides raising their own funds, they are funded by Pakistan's ISI. Some of the new guard earn a decent living at it, but while others actively support the activities of the organizations while pursuing professional careers. Most of the operations are run by only around a dozen or so individuals worldwide. Number 2, the group uses two main strategies to project the notion that its views have worldwide support. First, the same set of individuals have set up multiple front organizations to give the impression that many people in many organizations worldwide are concerned about the Kashmir issue. The strategy is similar to the evolution theory hoax perpetrated by Germans and German masqueraders who are people of German descent living in other countries. The German masquerader Charles Darwin proposed the theory of evolution. Then just a dozen or so Germans and other masqueraders popularized it in their countries and vigorously shouted down opposition to it by labeling people as ignorant or idiots who questioned it, till the lie began to be widely accepted. The second strategy used to give credibility to their fake narratives on Kashmir, the Pakistan establishment, and their Kashmiri plants in the United States, United Kingdom, and EU have roped in a few whites who amplify the narrative and lobby to rope in top leaders and politicians to amplify the narrative even further. In addition to American, EU, and British politicians trumpeting the Kashmir narrative put forth by Pakistan, some Pakistan-sponsored operators have gained high positions in government in their respective countries. With an expanding circle of such stakeholders, Pakistan is able to keep the Kashmir issue in perpetual flux and stirred up in the world. Number 3. Pakistan's ISI investment in funding the operations of the multiple organizations set up and hiring of lobbying firms generates a very handsome return on investment in terms of the military and financial aid Pakistan receives from the USA, UK, EU, and the Gulf states, and the fundraising that is done in the name of Kashmir. Number 4, the fake Kashmir narrative of human rights abuses by India in Kashmir has been established and propagated solely by the Pakistani establishment, particularly ISI. It seems that Kashmir has become a concern all around the world except of the Kashmiri people themselves. Del Dock concludes, there are virtually no Kashmiris with any worthwhile connection with Kashmir involved in the discussion of Kashmir. If they were, they have been sidelined. The handful of people of Kashmiri origin receiving funding support from ISI have lived in the United States, UK, and EU for decades and have little or no connection with Kashmir or the Kashmiri people living in Kashmir. Number 5. The old guard started their Kashmiri-related activities in 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The next generation has invigorated the activities beginning in 2015 to 2016. The Disinfo Lab document states a number of white experts, human rights champions suddenly pop up critical of various failings of India, including that on Kashmir. A number of new organizations also mushroom precisely around these issues around 2015 and 2016. These experts include C.J. Wallerman, Dr. Aubrey Trushky, Anthea McIntyre, Daniel Ellis Khan, Sela Ashai, other ZF anthropologist Haley Duchinsky, etc. Likewise, a number of global organizations also pop up expressing concern over India's various issues from business to minority rights to Dalit, right to Kashmir, including the Polis Project, Equality Lab, Justice for Kashmir, and so on. Number 6. The Disinfo Lab document then states, with all the lobbying, the networking, and sophisticated propaganda machinery, the mercenaries that is, the key ones have been mentioned here, but have to resort to fake news and misinformation to push the narrative of human rights violation, army atrocities, and repression in Kashmir by the fascist India. The one human rights issue that remains completely absent from their concerns is that of terrorism, because terrorism in Kashmir is perpetrated by Pakistan based terror outfits and not by Kashmiris living in Kashmir themselves. The fake news about Kashmir is peddled to global media right from the top of Pakistani machinery, including their politicians, diplomats, and journalists. The litany of fake news is long and would be virtually impossible to document. The document then provides a few examples of using videos from other situations, such as the Indian Army felling fruitful trees so that Kashmiris can't eat them, whereas the video actually showed glass in the Indian state of Himachal Pradesh being felled pursuant to a court order, or accusing Indian Army of using pellet guns to disperse protesters, whereas the video was of a Palestinian girl, or fake video of Indian Army using live bullets to disperse protesters, whereas the video was of a mock drill in Haryana state. Posting fake news about a rift between J&K police and India's Central Reserve Police Force, or fake news about India issuing over 3.4 million fake domiciles to change Kashmir's demography over the removal of Article 370, was circulated by major media houses of Pakistan and even Turkey's media houses. The purpose of this misinformation campaign to project the narrative that Kashmir is in turmoil due to atrocities being committed by the Indian Army, and because the Kashmiri population is deeply oppressed due to the revocation of Article 370, which gave special status to Kashmir, and India's attempts to change the demographics of the state by giving domicile status to non-Kashmiris in Kashmir. Pakistan can rely on some non-Kashmiri Indians also to push their narrative because they belong to groups of Indians who are allied with the Germans. Thus, Indians including Arundhati Roy, a Bengali, Suchitra Vijayan, Kavita Krishnan, Arthur Zia, Humadar, Natasha Kaul, a Kashmiri Brahmin, who can be arm twisted and blackmailed because a Kashmiri Brahmin, T.N. Kaul, orchestrated the murder of Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri of India, for which they have received financial rewards from the German allies in India. Then Mona Bhan, Anuradha Bhasin, Angana Chatterjee, who's a Bengali, Arjun Sethi, Shaheen Shora, Ruwa Shah, including possibly fake Sikhs such as Bhajan Singh Bhindar, who has been set up by the Pakistani establishment to agitate for a separate Sikh state. Because Indians from many states seem to be concerned about the Kashmir situation, it lends credibility to the fake Pakistani narrative. Number 8. Peddling false narratives of turmoil in Kashmir can only be sustained for so long. It has to be backed up by actual civilian visible action. Killings and murders and terrorist attacks are used to accomplish this. These terrorist attacks against the army and minority non-Kashmiri origin civilians are carried out by terrorists based in Pakistan and not by Kashmiris living in Kashmir. It's relatively easy to infiltrate into Kashmir and carry out these attacks from Pakistan. When I learnt of these nefarious activities by ISI, I tended to believe that mostly Pakistani Pashtuns must be behind them. But the key dates on which these activities went into overdrive is 2015 and 2016. So here are the prime ministers of Pakistan since 2015. Nawaz Sharif from 5 June 2013 to 27 July 2017. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, Pakistan, 1 August 2017 to 2031, and May 2018 to Imran Khan, a Pashtun, and 18 August 2018 present. This clearly shows that the whole Pakistani establishment is complicit in peddling the fake Kashmir narrative and not just the Pashtuns or Baloch. How can then we explain the recent killings of non-Kashmiri civilians and soldiers, but particularly Sikhs? Killing of 5 soldiers, with 4 of them being Sikhs, points to the Sikh soldiers being specifically targeted and the killing of the 5th soldier being coincidental. As already explained in the past, Sikhs, Americans, and Britons are killed primarily to declare allegiance to the German side and cement an alliance with them. That is the hurdle qualification the Germans have set. This is the signal to entire Pakistani establishment was giving to the Germans and Indians allied with them. A war is being planned by Indians under the guidance of Germans to destroy the Sikhs because they fought against the Germans in both world wars. A grand coalition is being built in the region for that purpose and to completely isolate the Sikhs. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Indians allied with the Germans and Chinese are heading the coalition in the Indian subcontinent. Afghan and Pakistani Pashtuns have already been part of the coalition because Pakistan's 1965 and 1971 wars with India were fought when Pashtuns headed the Pakistani movement. Brahmins in the most populous Indian states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar have now declared their allegiance to the German side by murdering 4 Sikh farmers on October 7, 2021, who went protesting the 3 farm bills passed in India. And now the whole of Pakistan is declaring its allegiance to the German alliance by murdering 6 soldiers and a 6th civilian. This is the heritage of terrorist killings of civilians and army officers, particularly of Sikhs in Kashmir in the past 2 weeks. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos, read my articles on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook channels, Unmasked Truth with Harmanjeet Saini, to view and get information on the latest videos. Some people do not have the time to go through the full length of videos. They find it more convenient to read the text of the video. Unfortunately, YouTube does not provide the facility to make the text of my voice, my videos available online. YouTube, fortunately, Facebook does provide that facility. So I make the text of my videos available in my Facebook channel, which you can easily copy.